Hey everyone, I'm just setting up the chat if you're joining in. Alright, it should kick on in a second where I can see myself on the video. So this is my second time sewing up this Addy crossbody. The first time I did the exterior, so I have everything here ready to go. I'm hoping to finish it completely tonight. All right, I'm gonna adjust the camera just a little bit. All right, that way I can see everybody a little bit better. All right, so like I said, sewing the interior tonight. I hope to finish the entire bag. I have everything here. So it'll have a slip pocket on the inside and a zipper pocket. So I'm just gonna get going, and then as people hop in, I'll catch everybody up. And I have kept everything here because it's so easy for me to grab the wrong pieces. So I'm gonna start with my slip pocket. And so I have this piece here that's an exterior from backstitch. That's going to be the outside of the slip pocket, and then the stripes. Hi Arnetta. It's cold today for you? It was nice here in New York today. I don't know now that the sun is down, but during the daytime it was a really beautiful day. It's that funny fall weather where you can sometimes catch it and it'll be really warm or really cold. Alright, and so even though I can sew all four sides of the slip pocket, since I'm using cotton woven, I'm still going to use a vinyl to go over the top. So I'm going to leave the top open to turn through. Hi, Sonia. Oh, is it warm in Alabama? Hi, Beth. Hi, Dad. So my dad said it's cold in Connecticut. I don't know about New York. We're near the water, so sometimes it's a little bit warmer here. How's everybody's day been? I'm jealous, Sonia. Send some of that warm weather up this way. I actually really love fall, but I'm not excited for winter. Beth, filming and editing. Oh, my favorite part, right? Today was busy. We posted in our Facebook group a sale. So normally on our website, we sell all our zipper pulls in packs of 5. Just because of like the website fees, it's so expensive to sell them by like single. So every so often we put a post and we sell them individually using like our business PayPal. So we just put a post up today for that. So we've been like going through and counting and trying to put all those orders together. So it's been really busy. Yeah, we're all looking for a miracle bed. So I just sewed the outside edges. I'm going to trim down the seam allowance a little bit here. Beth, are you able to tell us what you're filming, or is it a secret? Hi, Dalva. Alright, I just trimmed the seam allowance off of that. Dalva, were you baking today? I was really jealous of your pizza, the pepperoni one that you showed the other day. Alright. I'm just making sure that I'm poking out the corners for the bottom of the slip pocket. Ooh, alright, Beth, I'm gonna have to check out your video. Yeah, if you guys are not already subscribed to Beth at So Country, she has a ton of videos, and I swear she's like a human machine. She's constantly putting out new ones. So, and if you join us, we do once a month we do a marathon, a sewing marathon. And Beth always has the best facts built into her videos for that. Alright, so I left the top open because I am going to use the vinyl here as an overlay. So I'm going to mark the center. I was cutting out some, this is the glow in the dark vinyl we carry, and I used my blue marking pen, the water soluble one on the back on a different print, and it actually bled through to the front. So I'm going to use my silver marking pen because it won't bleed through the material. I haven't made the clutch yet. I have it all cut out and ready to go. I just haven't started sewing or filming. So our next marathon is, I believe it's October 26th, and we're sewing up the Greedy Clutch by Hollow Bag Creations. And she has some really cool different cover, like flaps on it. And I chose the spider web one, and I cut it out in glow in the dark, so I'm really excited for it. Oh, that's awesome, Dalva. It's always nice to get together with friends too. That makes it even better. So I have this double-sided tape from Dollar Tree. I usually get this like 4-pack from Amazon, and I ran out the other day. So this one hasn't been too bad. I don't think it's quite as sticky what I'm used to, but I do like that you can still tear it. You don't need to like cut it with your scissors, and it didn't give my machine problems before, so I'm hoping it's okay. I always have trouble getting the paper off the double-sided tape. And someone told me to try the stiletto, and I was still really terrible with it. I just ended up poking holes into the top paper of the double-sided tape. So this is cut longer than my pocket, and I like to do that just to give me some extra wiggle room when I start my sewing. And then trim it down after. I'm so thankful all of you guys joining me. An update on the hours. I'm 300, I think it's 3 hours or 2 hours away now from the 4,000 hours that I need. So I really appreciate everyone joining in. These Tuesdays have really helped my hours go up. I know, Beth, but it's funny. So on the back end of YouTube, when you're as you're approaching your goal, there's like a blue line, and I'm like, the blue line is so close. And I'm just switching out to my Teflon foot. and I'm just gonna top stitch across, and I am back stitching at the beginning and the end. You could tie it to the back if you want, but I'm just gonna do it on here because it's the inside slip pocket, so. I love how the vinyl overlays look on the slip pockets inside. And I'm super excited since this is glow in the dark. I can't wait to see it pop. And now this is where I'm just trimming down to the edges here. Dava, I'm not actually sure. I think the hours still count from premium members if people are premium. It's still time watched on my channel, so that definitely adds up. Because I'm not monetized for ads yet, I don't really know how it works for the ad part. But as far as like watch hours and stuff, it definitely helps me. Even, yeah, if you're a premium subscriber. Or a premium member to YouTube, I should say. Alright, I just grabbed one of my linings here, and I'm gonna find the center and the top and the bottom to position this where I want it. If I'm using like an all vinyl pocket, I actually will put like Scotch tape to hold it in place. But because this is all cotton woven, I'm actually going to use pins to help me hold it. I'm just using the silver marking pen. It's probably won't be able to see the little mark through the camera because it's so small, but this way I can line up my centers and try to find the best place for this. I have the little ruler from Mormino, and I love this size ruler for finding like pocket placement and stuff. It just works so great. I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw a post earlier today that Lauren released this new tool for like corners for around your edges and stuff. And it's so cute. It almost looks like a little ghost. And the bottom I think you could use for like scalloped edges. So I didn't get a chance to check it out yet, but it definitely caught my attention. And I'm just lining this up, hoping that, I mean, I am finding the centers and such, but hoping that it's as straight as possible. Because I don't want to mark anything on here, since it is the slip pocket, we'll end up seeing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it in and then kind of hold it away from me to see if it looks okay. So I have 2 pins just holding it, and honestly I just hold it far enough and kind of see if it looks okay. I think the left side needs to come down a tiny bit. Oh, that's awesome, Dalva. The train case, I don't know how to say it, fern one, the one from Lavender and Twine, or a different one? That was a little bit more straight. So I'm just going to stitch along the edges and back stitch at the beginning and the end to hold it in place. Oh yeah, Dava, that one was really beautiful. I can see why she wants that one. I think like selling bags for me is always so funny. Like our store focuses on all the supplies for it, but I do list some of my bags and I do like markets in person and stuff sometimes. And I literally just before coming on here, 2 bags that I've had sitting for probably like 2 years, honestly. And they've just been on Etsy. Both of them just sold right before coming on. And I was like, oh, that was a really nice surprise. It's so funny. Like, I always feel like things that I think people will really love don't go that well. And then others, like, I'm always like, oh, cool. Alright, so that is the slip pocket for one side. I actually like enjoy making the slip pocket, but now we're gonna have to do the zipper pocket, and I dislike doing that so much, just because I feel like it's tedious. Alright, I'm gonna move some of this out of my way. Alright, so now I'm going to do the interior zipper pocket, which I cut out a zipper overlay, which I think I left it in the other room when I was cutting out everything, but I'm going to check right here in a second. Yeah, thank you. Jason heard me that I think I left it in the other room, so he brought it to me. Worked out good. Jason helps behind the scenes with everything. Like sometimes your orders, if it says from Jason, he'll pack them, and he's the reason why everything gets to the post office so fast. So he's really come to know the different pieces of bags and whatnot, so. Yeah, Dava, that's kind of how it is too. To be honest, I've never tried to do a market in New York City. There's one, I think it's called the Grand Bazaar, that I kind of want to try. But otherwise, they're I feel like it's so hard to find or like get into. And then back home, they don't really sell that much. When I go back home, I'll take like stuff that I've had for a while. It's more like church bazaars or for the local school. So things that I've either had sitting for a while, or like I'll purposely make stuff that's like not as expensive with hardware and whatnot. Did I just... I'm wondering where the zipper went that I just dropped. So this is just a remnant of the black majestic tape. So it has like a bluish green shift on this one. So I'm just gonna cut it to the edge, or a little bit past the edge, so I can set up for my zipper pocket. Jason, Dava wants to see you. I'm not sure if you hear me. He has the Mets game on in the other room, so he's watching, but also has that. Before I start sewing this, I'll show you. I've been working on this week. So I was supposed to teach this puff quilt pillowcase pattern at the expo. And then when it got canceled, I've been dragging my feet. So I have been working on this all week, doing the instructions and such for it. And it's so much work for a pattern. I never really appreciated it until I started writing them myself, like all the photos and importing it over and making sure the steps. So it's the pillowcase. It has like an envelope style. So I don't know if you like quilting, or, I mean, this is different than traditional quilting because it's the puffs and it's tied. I actually really enjoy it a lot. So that will be coming out soon if you guys want to try something different than bag making. Thanks, Dad. Oh, Nicole, hi. Yeah, have you done a puff quilt, Nicole? Did you like it, or was it tedious to you? So Dava, I haven't done like a full size, like for a twin, or like full for a bed. I did do a really large throw for like the couch. A pain, but babies love it. Yeah. So I'm 5'2", so it's probably like almost 6 feet tall, because I wanted it to be able to like cover my feet when I'm laying down and have a little bit extra. And I would say maybe 4.5 feet wide. And I backed it with Shannon Minky, and it's my favorite thing ever. That's what I use on the couch all the time. It has like the one I use. So for this pillowcase, I use polyfill, but for the one that I have on the couch, I use cotton stuffing, and that has some weight to it, plus the weight of the Minky, and it just feels so nice to me. My least favorite part though is doing the ties in the middle. Like, you don't have to tie it in every single one, but my OCD, like, I couldn't not do that. And then I make it into like a little X instead of just like one way. So I definitely add work to myself, but I love the end result. And I know some people have machine like stitched in the center to kind of hold it in place. But there is a lot of layers where you have the 4 different puffs coming together.
I'll just do this.
Dalva, Jason's waving hi. I'll get him on camera for you next time when he's prepared. Alright, so I have my zipper pocket starting to set up, and so now I'm going to measure and put the overlay here. I like this method for the inside of bags because you don't see like the corners bunching up, it kind of hides it. I didn't like it at first because I felt like it was a lot of work, but as I have become a more confident sewer, I feel better about it. Hi, Kim. Oh my god, you waiting for McDonald's? Drive safe, enjoy. It'll make me hungry, but we just ate before I came on, so should be good for a while. And I'm just folding this, finding the centers right now. Like I said, you guys make me feel so good. I really appreciate everyone popping on, and so many of you have been watching like the replays too, because once it posts I can see the hours go up. So like I said, I really appreciate it so much. All right, and I like look forward to Tuesdays, especially you know, everybody chatting. It's like, hi, you know, we don't get to see each other in person, but it's a nice little check-in. So I'm just measuring from the bottom, but I'm going to switch it to the top, I think, because I need it a little bit longer. Aw, thanks, Beth. I want you to do a live so I can come bother you. No, come cheer you on. And I'm just putting double-sided tape again to hold this. I've found that if I keep it out of the seam allowance, it makes this so much easier. I used to try to do it without using double-sided tape, and I think that was part of me not liking overlays, because it just made it so much more difficult. Oh yeah, Kim. When I love joining in when you guys go live. The only thing for me is like I have to catch them at night because during the day, I won't be able to with work. All right, Beth. If you do it, let me know so I can come on and watch. I love like joining in the chat, or if I'm sewing, working on different projects, and just like listening. So it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll listen to like tutorials that are more structured, and then other times it's more chatty. So like if I'm learning a new bag pattern, my preference is for like a tutorial style. But if it's something where I'm kind of like working on a lot of things, or I don't really need to focus so much on the instructions, I love the chatty, like catch up with everybody type ones. Oh, kids of, are you joining us for the greedy clutch, Kim, for the next marathon? I have to tell your husband, I thought his edits were so funny. It was like 5 hours later. Yeah, Kim Y6 Made also has a YouTube channel, so definitely check it out. Nicole, I know you do quilting, but do you have a channel with stuff? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Yeah, if any of you have channels of your own, definitely put it in the chat. You are more than welcome. So for this one, I am stitching around the outside. I am going to tie the tails in the back of this one though, for sure. So I'm going to leave them a little bit longer. I think I've also started liking the overlays as I've become more confident with top stitching. Especially like tonight I'm using a contrasting thread, so it's going to be really noticeable. Nicole, I felt like that for a while. I was so intimidated by it, but then I started writing a couple of my own patterns, and then I started doing the ambassador work for cotton cuts, and that actually started out because of my TikTok following. But it really pushed me to make tutorials for cotton cuts and add them to YouTube. And then I was invited for the sewing marathons, and everyone just got a little bit easier and more comfortable. And then I finally worked up the nerve for lives, and like I said, now I look really forward to Tuesdays and catching up with everybody. Oh, good, you're joining us. Are you doing one of the flap add-ons, like the like I'm doing the spiderweb version? The only thing I'm nervous about with the spiderweb version is I cut out glow-in-the-dark white, and you have to draw your lines on for the spider web to kind of like follow the pattern. And the glow in the dark, whatever they use to make it glow in the dark, it doesn't really remove markings from it. So I might have to either figure out what I can do really lightly where it's not going to be seen, like the stitches will cover it, or find something that I can somehow remove it. I think chalk might work. I haven't tried that one yet. But I'll just have to make sure I have like a really sharp edge to get like the skinny line. I'm super happy with how the top stitching looks on this one. Sometimes, like, depending on how hot my sewing room is, like the what's it called, the vinyl gets more sticky, but it seemed to work really good. Okay, drive safe, Kim. I was trying to find, like, so in order to tie this off on the back, I start and stop in the same stitch, and sometimes it makes that hard to pull up your thread. So I just grabbed the needle real quick, and I'm just going to use that to thread it through to the back instead of trying to fight with it. I didn't really leave this one that long, but I think it's still okay. Some of these are so long it's a little tricky to make sure I get them all looped. And then I don't like burning them once I have it knotted. I'm always afraid that I'm gonna like melt the knot off. So I just kind of cut it short. You can use like a freight check too if you want. But I'm super happy with how it looks. It's so funny. I had to double check because I thought that I missed a stitch, but because I'm using the variegated thread, it switched to green in that one spot. Thanks. So now this is like my least favorite part. I'm cutting, I have to cut out the opening. So I just use my seam ripper to get it started. And I try to do it from the back so I can see where I'm cutting, because you don't want to accidentally cut into your overlay, especially after you just did all of that work. So I'm just cutting the fabric back past the point of the overlay so that way we don't see it from the front. I'm so excited to see this come together. And actually with the cotton woven, it's peeling back kind of nice. It's not really fighting me. I also think because the double-sided tape isn't quite as sticky. Perfect. So now that I have that opening, I need to put my zipper pull on before I forget. So for the outside, I put the sandworms on, but for this inside zipper pull, since we're not really going to see it, I'm just using a standard one from my shop. You know what, Dalla? That's a good idea. I really need to get a pair of duckbill. I do not have any. Alright, so now I am going to center this and make sure that it's open. Sometimes I like to put it on, sew the top, then flip the top or the bottom up, sew the bottom, and then do the sides, because it will hide your edge here. You won't see the stitching. By doing it this way, sometimes you see the stitching, but no one's really looking in the pocket, so I don't think it's too big of a deal. And I used to find these a pain because I would just kind of hold them in place. But now I just put the double-sided tape on the edges, and I realize that if they are on the actual like far edge, it doesn't get in your seam allowance, and it is like a miracle or a lifesaver to do that. Because otherwise I was trying to like hold it and balance and make sure my zipper wasn't moving. It was not fun. Again, I'm trying to get the paper off of it. There we go. Usually I can catch it by just like running my nail over it a few times. Like I said, this is just you can see it's kind of popping up a little bit. I'm going to try it with just one side of double-sided tape because like I said, this one's not quite as sticky, so. Alright, I'm making sure I have my zipper pull going the correct direction. And the other thing is I want to make sure that it's centered in this overlay so I have enough space on the sides to sew up the zipper pocket after. So I've definitely done that where I put this zipper overlay on and then I didn't leave myself enough space. So what I like to do is kind of just set it on top gently. I don't push it down yet until I look from the front and really make sure that my zipper is centered. I think this is one of the things that I struggle with the most, making sure that it's looks okay, but sometimes it moves. We'll see. I think it's okay. I'm gonna start top stitching it, and again I'm gonna leave the tails long so I can tie it to the back. And I'm going to also start on the corner so that way the little knot isn't seen. This is what I was talking about where like if you sew it with it open, this way with the knot on the side, it will be hidden in the corner. And for when I'm actually sewing the zipper like this, I find that I hand crank a ton to make sure, especially around the edges. And I'm still moving the zipper pull out of the way when I get close to it. Otherwise it could be wavy. I can't tell you how many times when I would do one of these pockets where you have to like, instead of holding it open, move your lining up and then down, and I've accidentally like completely sewed my pocket closed. So I think it's pretty good. Not too crooked or anything, so quite happy with it. Oh no, look what I just did. This is what I get for saying that, right? I just jinxed myself. The lining moved. I didn't make sure it was all the way open. Alright. So what I'm going to do, now we can see how I fix it. I'm actually going to pull this back and see if I can tie it off at the beginning and the end. so that way I don't have to rip out so many stitches. Beth, yeah, this is what I get. I'm like, oh, it looks so good. So yeah, I should have double checked. Now you'll get the real life, like how to fix your mistake. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the stiletto part and pulling this back as far as I can. Because my hope is that if I start the next one in the same spot and go to where this ends, I can tie it off in both the beginning and the end. And that way I won't have to pick out my whole stitching. Sorry, this is going to take a little bit to do this. So what I'll be able to do is, if this ever happens with like vinyl, and I've unpicked in vinyl before, and then what I do is I'll just hand crank it and match up the holes. Or if you can't get the holes perfectly, if you're going over the same stitch line, then a lot of times the thread will hide the hole that you made. You could also, with vinyl, since it's like essentially plastic, you can warm it up with like a blow dryer or something and kind of press on it, or even like an iron if you use a pressing mat, and sometimes you can hide your mistakes that way. It doesn't work so well with like a textured vinyl, because I've found with, if you iron it too hot, it literally irons out the texture. But if you have a vinyl that's like smooth already, then it works great. Hopefully, because this happened now, I won't make any more mistakes the rest of the bag. And this is like another thing that I always used to feel like so self-conscious about going live, where like, oh no, what if I make a mistake? And I definitely felt that way for a while, but now I kind of don't mind it or whatnot, because maybe what I do will help you fix a problem that you have next time. That, and like, we know how many times mistakes happen, so it's alright. It's to be expected, I feel like. Not everything can be a perfect video. Almost to the end of where it started to fold up. Hi, thanks for joining in. I'm currently unpicking, well, I'm not using the seam ripper to rip my threads. You can see the pocket, it bunched up when I was sewing it. Oh my god, Dama, the commoners. Oh my god, you're too funny. Yeah, I don't have any problem when people leave their mistakes in a video. As long as, like, my only pet peeve is when I was learning to sew and it wasn't said right away that it was a mistake and that I did something wrong. But if people are like, don't do this, I just made this mistake here, I genuinely really appreciate that because I'm sure that all of us have done it at one point or another. Yeah, so my plan is that once I get this unpicked, I'm just gonna leave my tails long at the beginning and the end again, and so I'll have it tied off in two different places instead of just one. Because I'm not backstitching, so I don't need the backstitch to catch. And I'm also grateful. This is the Text 35 thread, so it's a little bit more sturdy than just like the regular thread that I would get from like Joann's or something. So that's definitely helping me unpick this because it not accidentally like ripping through it or anything. Just a couple more. The other thing I could do is just like I could have just picked it all and cut a new overlay. That's another nice thing that with the overlay you can always just make a new one. But I usually use my Cricut to cut the overlays or like very carefully like hand trace it and stuff. So that would be even more time consuming, I think, than this. But it's definitely an option. Thankfully, like if this was the whole overlay, then I would totally unpick it. But because it was only a portion, it's not bad. Alright, at the very last. Yay! Alright, perfect. So now I'm going to cut my threads just a little bit shorter because they're so long that I don't want to accidentally catch them as I'm sewing. Okay. Perfect. Alright, so let's try this again. I think what happened is when I turned this, I didn't check, and this one totally got bunched up as I spun it. I didn't really leave a long tail, so I'm just pulling that longer. The bottom was already long enough. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm just hand cranking it. I'm literally catching the same holes as I did previously. So hopefully when I get to the end, we won't even know that there was a mistake. And I think also I'm sewing on a domestic using a 90-14 needle. So I think this might probably be more difficult if you had like an industrial and there was like larger needle holes and such, or a thicker thread. Almost to the end. I'm afraid to like not be patient and use my like foot pedal and then go off the line, so I think it's worth it to just keep hand cranking it. Alright, so now I just have the beginning and the end, so two different places where I'm just going to have to thread it to the back and tie it. But that is perfectly fine. Once I'm done, I'll show you. You can't even really tell that it was sewn over. I'm just threading the needles to the back, especially now that there's two different spots. It's much easier to use an actual needle. Perfect. And this one is still on the side, so it won't be visible. The other is more in the center, but I'm just going to tie it really tight, and it's not going to interfere with the zipper. And honestly, people won't even really know it's there unless they know to look for it. I was having so much trouble trying to loop one of them. Alright, so again, I'm going to cut that one short. Ah, hi Katie, you're checking in from Greenland. Oh my god, that's so awesome. How are you doing? Are you doing the cotton cuts like Tree of Life? I'm super excited for the big reveal. So the cotton cuts quilts that I do for the ambassador, my first large size is Tree of Life, and that reveal is coming the beginning of November, so super excited. This is the other thing too that I think is so awesome about going live around this time is it is the middle of the night for Europe, but it's so cool to people in the same like hemisphere or like along the time zones as us But then you also get like the complete opposite side of the world too. I know Greenland's above us, or above where I am in New York, but last week we had somebody from Australia too, so that was awesome. I'm just tying off these threads. I'm making sure that I'm catching all of them. And again, this knot is so small that you're not even really going to see it once that zipper pocket is complete and using it in the bag. Alright, so thank you for sticking with me for that mistake. So I'm not sure if you can tell how good the camera's picking it up, but you cannot even really tell at all that I had to go over this a second time. And so now I like to close my bag, or turn my bag through the bottom lining, and then close up my lining through the pockets. So I am going to close up our zipper pocket, but only along the sides. I'm going to leave this bottom open. So what I'm doing is I'm just turning, like sewing from the top, but turning the lining, the top lining to the side, so that way I can see the zipper pocket behind it. And doing it this way, one of the pocket linings is a little bit longer. So I'm just going to make sure that I stop where the shorter one is. And then I'll trim that after. And I always sew mine all the way right over the, up and over the zipper tape. Alright, so you can see here there's the extra. And that's just because we had sewed the original with it open. So I'm just going to trim that down now while it's easiest. You can also trim off your edges of your zipper tape. I personally leave them, I don't know, they're about 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to leave them that way. If they fray or anything, it's not going to come undone in my stitching. And then always just double check, because like I said, you don't even know how many times I've accidentally sewed this pocket closed. Alright, so now we are into the final construction. So I'm just grabbing my other linings, and then this was our front and back piece from last time, and our zipper. So I am going to start with the back first. So the back, I want my zipper pocket to be on the back. So this is where it gets a little tricky. My testers had, sometimes their zippers came out wavy. So some people have found using double-sided tape to hold them in place, or basting them. And some people found, instead of basting, just doing both at one time. So what I'm going to do is baste them, and just be really, really mindful as I'm stitching it, and hopefully they don't come out wavy. And I'm just marking the center on my zipper tape. I did not do that last time. So I have to think about how this is going to look, because it's the back, so my zipper is actually the opposite way. And I'm just finding my center of this here. And I'm just going to clip this in place. And another thing that creates the wavy zipper is, and not just for this bag, for any bag, is if you do not move your zipper pull out of the way, not only while you're sewing, but also while you're clipping. So here, I'm going to clip this side. I'm actually moving that pull out of the way, because there's just the slightest little bubble if you don't, and it's enough to contribute to a wavy zipper. And I'm just switching out to a different foot to base this in place. So there, I moved my zipper pull out of the way, and as I'm basting this, I'm really paying attention, and it's probably kind of dangerous. I'm keeping my my finger really close to the needle, but I'm doing that to make sure my zipper stays aligned. So now I'm going to put my lining right sides together with it. I already have my center marked, so I'm following the same procedure to clip it, and then where I'm sewing is going to be a little bit different. Once I have it clipped, I'll explain, because we're not going all the way to the edge. So this bag has, it does not have a gusset, but it still has a zipper and the D-rings in the sides. So in order to do that, it's almost like a box corner at the top. So if we sew all the way closed, we won't be able to insert our D-rings. Right, I'm going to switch into a zipper foot. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am using my 3/8 seam allowance, and if I follow this curve off to the edge, so I'm actually going to start stitching about right here. I'm not starting at this edge. And I'm using, I'm not basting, so I'm using my regular stitch length. And I'm coming up to that zipper pull, so I'm just moving it out of the way. Alright, so I left my zipper tab and the end of the zipper a little bit longer. So now I'm going to be folding this back on itself. So I'm just trimming them off so they don't get stuck in that seam allowance and make it really difficult for us. And then I am folding that so it is wrong sides together. And we're gonna top stitch it in a second. Opening my zipper, it makes it easy. This also, like, it's cotton woven, so I am pressing it down. I could do use an iron from the back side. I like to try to make sure I'm pulling the lining away from the zipper tape, and I'll use clips sometimes to make sure that it gets pulled. It does leave the little marks or indents in the vinyl, but it does come out, or at least on this vinyl it does come out, so I don't mind using the clips. And then I'm going to switch to my Teflon foot and do a top stitch. So usually I'm on for an hour. I know we're after 9. I'm going to try to finish this. I don't want to make people wait and have a third week. So I'm going to do this all the way up through. I'll probably do the crossbody strap off camera, but up till then I'm going to try to finish. Okay, and so now where I'm top stitching, I'm only top stitching starting where that zipper tab is to the beginning of the zipper teeth. We don't want to go to the end. And I am back stitching here. You will see it, but I don't personally think it's that big of a deal. If you want to tie it off in the back, you could, but I don't genuinely do that when I'm top stitching. And as I'm going, I'm also taking my hand to kind of pull the lining in the back, making sure that it is laying flat. I do top stitch through my lining. I personally don't like when it's not top stitched through the lining because I feel like the lining gets stuck. But I know that there's people that do that and have no problem with it. I just always manage to have it too loose. So if you are top stitching through the lining, the key to that is starting and stopping where your zipper teeth begin and end. When you go all the way to the end, that's when you have trouble with like the corners not poking out and whatnot. So alright, so this is what the inside looks like. The front, I always try to like take my zipper, because this is what I'm talking about right here. Sometimes with water resistant canvas, if I don't pull it, it will get caught. So before I get too far, I always check my zipper. And now we're going to repeat the same thing for the other side. Again, I'm just marking the centers. And so I'm base stitching it again, the zipper teeth down on this side. And it does get a little bit more finicky as you're adding more layers. But again, just take your time clipping. Again, moving my pole out of the way. So this construction here, how I'm doing the top and how the D-rings go in, is the same method as in the winter crescent bag pattern of mine. This is just, I did this size at 90% for a crossbody, but the actual pattern, the shoulder bag, is much larger. So if you've made or have tried that one, it's the same method. Alright. And once you get used to it, it kind of goes together fairly quickly. It would also be even quicker if I didn't do like all the pockets and such. But I really like a lot of pockets in my bag. So I tend to include them on most of the bags that I am making. And I'm just kind of holding it up so I can see a little bit better. The interfacing, I put the interfacing on always after I cut my pieces, so sometimes it overhangs the edge a little bit or shrink and stuff. Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, bags are so addicting too. Like, I have a ton. That's why I try to get rid of them in like my craft fairs or list them sometimes in my shop. Because I'm also the same type of person that I will use a bag until it's like falling apart or too dirty or whatnot. And I usually use crossbodies. That's kind of my go-to. I like having my hands free, and my number one need on any bag is I always have a zipper. Especially I've been commuting to work on the subway, so just to have that extra security. I might have to rethread this, I'm not sure. Sometimes you can hear it. Oh, okay. It like did a little bird's nest, but it caught. So it's so funny because when I started sewing, people are like, "Oh, you'll hear when you need a new needle, or you'll hear if like the bobbin is messed up." And I was like, "What do they mean?" But it's so true that once you're used to your machine and sewing, you do recognize those things. Oh yeah, especially if you're just like running out to a store or something real quick. Yeah, working like you said, I feel like I have to have everything. And like especially commuting now, I'm carrying more stuff because I can't just run out to my car. gonna switch down to the Teflon foot. That's the other thing too. My other machine had like the little ones where you clip. It does take a little bit switching out feet, but I've realized how much it's actually worth it to do that, so. Like I said, I'm just cutting off the edges again. And we'll have to fold this back on itself. This is where it can get a little bit tricky top stitching. So again, I open the zipper fully. I guess what would make it easier, instead of putting like a zipper tab here, you could leave your zipper long, stop sewing at a certain point and leave like that, like a tail, and just put a zipper cap too. That would probably make it a little bit easier. And I'm just taking my time making sure I'm pulling that away from the zipper teeth. Alright, so this is where, again, it gets a little bit bulky. I'm gonna roll this up because the way that my Teflon foot is, I have to sew from this side. I feel like I get like a muscle workout sometimes maneuvering the bags. Oh no. I'm trying to tell real quick before I get too far. Yeah. I'm gonna have to rethread. The bobbin's acting up, so I didn't want to stitch all the way through. So I'm gonna pull this out real quick and then rethread it. And this one I'm just ripping out completely because I had just started, so it's not a problem. And then I find sometimes if it messes up when I rethread, I always pull out my bobbin as well and put it back in, because sometimes I'm like, all right, well, I rethreaded the top, but it will still act funny. So now I've just gotten in the habit of checking everything. All right, let's do this again. And part of it is because it's not like super bulky, because this machine will sew through anything I put under, but with the zipper end right there, it's like an awkward place. I probably should use a hump jumper in that area. All right, much smoother now. Right, now we'll be in the home stretch of things. Okay, so now here's the front with the top stitch. And again, you can't even really tell that I had to pull out any of it. So in the pattern, I also have where we put, like before we build this, we put the bottom together and kind of fold it open and top stitch. So the seam is top stitched open. I'm going to skip that step tonight. It's not like a necessity for it. I just think it can look, it makes it look nice. So now I'm lining up my sides, and because of the angle of the bag, we cannot sew our lining and exterior at the same time. It tends to like curve and be a little funny. So what I'm doing is I am just matching up my edges where the two vinyls meet, both at the top and the bottom. Where's the thread cup, Dava? It's right here. It's a little bit underneath the camera tonight. That's where I'm like reaching over to. Have a good night. Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, so now I'm starting at pulling away the lining and just doing my regular 3/8 stitch all the way around the 3 sides. And I'm putting my regular presser foot back on for that. And it can get a little thick with the vinyl, so you definitely want to be mindful of that depending on, you know, the capabilities of your machine. I'm backstitching at the beginning and the end of each side. I'm just not cutting the threads until I go all the way around. And so we're going to repeat the same steps for the lining, just taking a larger seam allowance that will make sure our lining fits properly, or we're starting at the regular seam allowance and then increasing, I should say, and leaving a gap in the bottom to turn. And I need to be mindful of that. That's another thing, like, I have forgotten to leave that. We left our pocket open to turn through here, but it's really like such a small opening that I prefer to turn through the bottom. So you can see like it kind of wants to like go onto itself, so that's why I do each each side separate. And so, like I said, I'm going to start at the 3/8 inch, but increase to a 1/2 inch seam allowance as I'm going. And then for the bottom, I'm starting at the 1/2 inch and just keeping it at the 1/2 inch. The top is, I start at the 3/8 so that way our edges line up. And then, so since this is coming up towards the top, I'll start at the 1/2 inch and then decrease it down to the 3/8 when I get towards the top. I hate having to interface cotton woven, but I actually really love sewing with it. And then the other thing that we need to do is box our corners. So I'm going to start at the bottom, do the bottom first. And then I'll do the exterior first, and then I'll do the lining. And so the same thing for the exterior, I always do the 3/8 and then the lining, the 1/2 inch. And I try to open my seams. I'm working with all vinyl, so it's a little bit thick. Sorry, I know the bag is in the way. I'm just trying to do this quickly as possible. Repeat for this side. And my main zipper is open, so if you need to stick your hand in the bag, you can. But this one seems to be opening pretty good. I've had these clips a while. They only get so many uses before they start breaking. So we're going to repeat the same step for the lining. And then we'll just have to put our D-rings in. And that's the part that I really want to show, because that's the part that a lot of people have trouble with on the bag. And I feel like it's also the hardest part to like write into the pattern to be able to show the pictures most accurately. And now that this bag's finished, I'm not sure what I'm gonna work on next Tuesday. I'll have to see what I either get cut out in that time, or I'm not sure if it's gonna be a bag, or I still need to make one of those stuffy balls. It's like a bean bag for my niece, so that might be what I do next week, so I can get that done. If there's any particular patterns that you guys want to see, or either on the live or a tutorial for, let me know. I've started reaching out to different designers and asking if I could do tutorials. So some of them, there are some that don't allow tutorials at all, so obviously I'm not asking them, but for some other patterns where they do allow them, I've started asking. And I'm just trimming down the seam allowance. I find that it's really helpful, especially making the lining fit. So we are getting to where we have to insert the, hey Kim, insert the D-rings. Not too much. I just added the zipper pocket and put the lining and the exterior together. So now I'm going to show how I do the D-rings, which is the same method as the winter crescent, which I was saying how it can be really tricky. I think that's where people have the most trouble. So, and I'm using webbing for my D-ring connectors and the strap. I really don't want to make a strap. So I'm cutting each of these to, it's about 3.5 inches. Because it is seatbelt webbing, I'm going to singe the edge so it doesn't fray. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's like the hardest part of the bag, and it's definitely the most intimidating. But I love it that you don't have a gusset, but you still are able to have like a zipper on your bag. Okay, so instead of D-rings, I'm using these square rings. These are the ones that we carry in my shop. They are the thicker kind. So all our hardware is the thicker hardware. You can see even with the slider, it's thicker. This is my personal preference with bags because I'm not a fan of hardware. There's some that is skinny that I feel like I could snap. So this is the kind that we carry. And so I'm just going, you could do a rivet. I am going to just stitch a line of top stitching just to hold these so they're not twisting all the way around. And I'm just trimming the threads. I sewed them at the same time, so. Yeah, I never added glue. If you're using a cotton webbing, you definitely want to add glue because cotton won't melt to itself. When I use webbing, I singe the end and I always leave extra. So you'll see with this, I'm going to leave some hanging out and I don't trim it. Alright, so this is where it gets a little tricky. Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't catch all the edges. So there's two sides. This is the side without the D-ring. Not the D-ring, the zipper tab. And this side is much easier to pull apart. So you want to think of it as like you're boxing a corner. So if you stick your fingers inside and kind of pull to separate them, you are lining up your center seam. And you can nest your seams, you can open them up. Whatever works best or easiest for you. But before we box them and sew them, we have to insert our D-ring. So I just gently open this up and insert it going down. And I leave a little bit hanging out of the webbing. And I feel because I want to make sure that I have it far enough down that I can sew an accurate seam allowance. So I'm just clipping along the edge. So once I never thought of this as like boxing a corner, but once someone was like, oh, it's like that, I'm like, yeah, exactly. So that really helped me to explain how to do this method in both this bag, which is the Addy Shoulder Bag, and the Winter Crescent. So now I'm just taking that to the machine and I am going to sew across. The important part is you can see your stitching to the edge here and over here. You want to catch that because if you don't catch that, then you're going to see raw edges. So you want to make sure that your seam allowance is catching those stitches from where our zipper went. And sometimes you might need to take a larger seam allowance than that 3/8 in order to make sure that you're catching them. And I just did one line across of stitching. So you can see like this side is a little bit further. So I made sure that it matches up. So it's okay that this one is a little bit longer. It's just how it was sewn. It's okay if it's not perfect. The part that really matters is catching that stitching on the left and right hand side. Because this is where the strap is going to connect, I like to sew a second line over just where the webbing is, just to be extra secure. So I'm going to do that. And just as long as it's in the seam allowance, it's not going to mess anything up. So now we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. This is where it gets more tricky because this side we do have a zipper tab. So it does not open as wide. Oh yeah, with the binding and webbing, that's really hard. I always get a little bit nervous. Okay, so you can see there's very little wiggle room. There's maybe like 1.5 inches. So I'm just trying to squish this so I can get it open. So the same thing, we're going to put our D-ring or square ring inserted down through. If you can feel and try to insert it on the side where the vinyl is, on the exterior side, it makes it easier when you turn. If, like, my square ring was kind of thick and it wouldn't go through, so I'm actually coming up from the inside right now. So that's another option. If it doesn't fit, pushing down, because like I said, this is probably only like 1.5 inches wide at the most. So this one you probably will have to sew like more on a curve in order to get your seam allowance and catch those edges. And I have to say, out of the whole bag, this is definitely the hardest part. But once you do a few, it's not so bad. So again, I am just squishing it and making sure that I catch on the left hand side, and then it's blocked on the right hand side over here, but where that stitching is. And also with this, I don't worry about it looking pretty. It's going to be on the inside. No one's going to see it. So for me, it's more about making sure it's secure. And I think that took me a while too as a bag maker. I was like, oh, but it doesn't look like nice. And it's like, no, it's in the inside. No one's going to see it. And again, I'm just going to do another row of stitching because it is on that webbing and going to be pulled on with the strap. Alright, so it seems like I've caught the edges. It should be good. So now I am going to turn it through the bottom. The other thing, if you wanted to do a double row of stitching on the bottom vinyl, I definitely recommend that too. I didn't on this one. If you have trouble with your stitching showing, that's a tip that can help make it work, or make it so that the stitches don't show. I'm trying to do this very gently, but I might have to go grab a hairdryer. I'm trying to smush it as best I can, because I only really use vinyl, the glow in the dark on the top and the black on the bottom, but that black one is kind of thick. Alright, it's almost through. And so I'm just making sure that I am reaching down and poking out my box corners on the exterior. I'll do the same thing for the lining. Alright. Before I do the lining, this is like the moment of truth. I do tug on these a little bit. You don't want to obviously like yank on it so you're gonna like rip them out, but I do tug on the webbing to pull that out. And so this is where I check. So this stitch line is where it ended for our top stitching, and as there's no raw edges here. That's where you want to double check, because if you don't catch that stitch line, that's where you would see raw edges poking through. But there's none, and our D-ring connectors there. I had some testers even put some rivets there to help hold it. And then this side you can see is much easier. There's no zipper tab, so it opens nice and wide. And so this is what I was talking about. If you had left like a longer zipper tail and used a zipper end cap, it would probably make it easier to put this side in. So this is what it looks like from the front. And then the back, I have the chalk line still. I need to, I'll use like a wet cloth to get rid of it. And then so our inside, we have the zipper pocket and the slip pocket on this side. So I have 3 things left, but I am going to do them off camera because I've been on for a long time. The lining in the bottom needs to be closed. So how I do that is we have left our zipper pocket lining open. So I literally pull up the bottom of my purse lining through this zipper pocket. So you can see it here. And I just start and stop. You'll see where we left that opening. And you can sew across. Hi, Liz. So we have closing up the bottom, closing up the zipper pocket, and then our strap. So those 3 things I am going to do off camera. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Tonight it was longer. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do an hour, but I really wanted to finish this bag. I'm so happy with how it turned out. Again, the panel and the fabric over here are cotton woven. I used the vinyl from the for the bottom from Joann's. It's like a cosplay, and then all this green vinyl here is from our shop that will be glow in the dark. So I'll have to charge it in the light box and take a picture and post it so you guys can see it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the night. I really appreciate everybody joining on Tuesdays. Like I said, it's really boosted my hours. And if you have an idea for next Tuesday, I don't really have anything planned yet. We'll see what I have cut out over the week. But if there's something, like, let me know in my Facebook group or Instagram, send me a message. I'll definitely take it into consideration. So I hope you guys have a good night. I'll see you next week. Bye.